Apple, one of yours and my favorite stocks. Pete's owned it for longer than I have, folks. But Samsung reclaimed their spot over Apple as the world's #1 smartphone seller. That's interesting, and some people are selling based on this news. Apple smartphone shipments fell almost double digits, almost 10% to 50 million units in the first quarter. That's still 50 million units, folks. And the other part that I'll say quickly, Pete, is that ask Samsung how much they make on services, Pete. Ask them how much they make on health and all that kind of stuff, and their app store. And then come talk to me about, oh, they're not selling. They're selling crap. They're selling something that's ubiquitous. An Android phone is just something that you talk on and you check things out. It's great, but they don't make the money Apple makes, Pete.
Yeah. Well, and, it's all about China. It's about the expectations, the fact that there's more of an Android growth area there because of the fact. And by the way, Samsung's been the king as far as just the phone for about a 12-year span, right? I think this is the first time Apple actually got up above them, and then it slipped right back down after the quarter. So is that the biggest deal in the world, to your point? I don't think it's that big of a deal at all. The stock, nonetheless, has gotten pushed to the downside. Last I looked, it was trading about 169. It was down a couple of percent. I'll tell you what, I agree with you, John, but I would also say this is why this is a great stock for what you and I oftentimes do, which is we're trying to create an extra dividend out of what we're seeing by selling options against a long stock position. I'm not going to go any further than that, but I can tell you this, because it's kind of flatlined this year, we did get up to 198 or whatever. We pulled all the way back down, and we've been trading in a fairly tight range. Because of that, that works out pretty well for you, pretty well for me as options guys, because we're able to manipulate and do things that you wouldn't be able to do if this thing was just going straight up and then the pullbacks. This has been a very flatlined, very non-productive year so far for Apple, but nonetheless, that actually plays into the favor of a lot of us that are playing Apple in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, and think of this, folks. So I looked up just before the show, Pete, when Apple was right around 170, 169-ish, and I looked at the 170s out 1 month. How much are you getting for those? $5.60 or something like that. So what does that mean? Well, that's a 1 month out. If you got that 10 times a year, not even every month, just 10 times a year, that's $55, 56 bucks on a $170 asset. Take out your calculators, folks, and see how much you goosed up your return by doing that. That's why Pete and I love this stock still. It's not just a story about how many iPhones do they sell, how much do they make from services, and all the rest of the things that Apple does. But it's a thing when you're selling options against the stock, you're collecting rent every single month. Some of you are collecting rent every single week because you elect to do it that way. And nothing wrong with that. It's just a little more active. But if you had a $169,000 condo, are you telling me you just let it sit there empty all year, or would you collect rent from it? That's what Pete and I are doing. You should go to marketrebellion.com/get started to learn more about that. Or they could always get the book, Pete. It's
just
not an option.
It's not an option.
Have that. It's not an option. You can get it for free by going to itsnotanoption.com. That's itsnotanoption.com. You can get a free copy of the book. It'll help get you on your way if you need a little refresher in options. That'll certainly help out.